Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison. We're broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RowAuctions.com, as they are the host of this program and sponsor. Additionally, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. Got a lot of topics today. We've got callers calling in. I am going to be going up to Washington, D.C., not next week, but the following week. I've been invited to go up to talk to them about auctions, to talk about government auctions, the surplus properties that they have. I'm pretty excited about that. I've been up there 3 times now. This will be my 4th time, and there's a lot of things going on. We'll try to go back and forth depending on the calls, but first got involved in this almost a year and a half ago. And what it was is that I was listening to the State of the Union address. President Obama talked about the fact that there was government surplus properties and that the taxpayers could be getting the benefit if we sold them. And then President Obama followed up on it in, again, this is 2011, February, State of the Budget address in Baltimore, Maryland, about February 14th, I believe. And he talked about, okay, there's 14,000 government surplus properties. And this is a number that came up through the government accounting office, the GAO as it's called. They are the government's accounting office, the ones that kind of find out what each department is doing, what's the total, how are we doing, what needs to be cut, what needs to be added. They've got a lot of work. And anyway, 14,000 government surplus properties. And so that's when I went up there and talked to congressmen and senators, their offices. Very interesting. Went to the GSA, which is the General Service Administration, which is basically this country's landlord, and talked to them. Went to the CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, and talked to them. Went to the GAO, again, the General Accounting Office, and talked to them. And lots of interesting topics. I don't believe that they knew how much that it cost the American taxpayer to hold each property. And you only do that with being in the real estate business and talking to banks every day and every week. And I have sold about 8,000 government properties. And the reason the government sells properties is because they want to make sure that they're not holding on to them. And this has been evident with the FDIC, the RTC. I've worked with the Small Business Administration, U.S. Marshals, Fannie Mae, GSA, a lot of initials, but basically government organizations and entities that needed to sell properties because they're not in the business to keep properties. And so, as I got into it, found out that Congressman Denham, Jeff Denham from California, was really on top of this. And he, even though he's a freshman congressman, his thing in California was to see how California was utilizing their properties, and if they had surplus properties, and yes, they did. And so he had a lot of experience on that, and so he became really a leader in this effort and has been really strong in this effort. And I've met with him. I've met with his office leaders, and we will get back to this, but let's take a first call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Is Doug there? This is Earl Nemeth.
Hey, Earl. This is Doug Dennison. You're on the air. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine down here in Sarasota, Florida.
Well, good.
Beautiful day.
Good. Tell us what you do, and I understand you're from Sarasota, Florida, but what is your interest in real estate, and what do you do that's involved in this business?
Well, I've been involved in real estate for too many decades to even talk about. I was an Illinois broker up for about 20 years until I moved down here.
Okay.
But I've always been involved in real estate, and currently we are the editors and publishers of a e-newsletter called the Real Estate Daily News that comes out Monday through Friday.
Well, I actually have used your service a couple of times with auctions, and I appreciate your hard work and your efforts to get the news out. You and I have talked about the government surplus properties a little bit, and I know you were curious, and I've been sending you stuff, and right before the show, I was before you came on, I was talking to the audience about the fact that I'll be going up to Washington, D.C. In a couple of weeks, not next week, but the following week, and talking again about the need to sell government surplus properties, how much it costs the American taxpayer for holding these properties. And you had some thoughts on it before, and I appreciated that. You being a broker, you know what happens when a property just sits there, and you still have a holding cost, and you still have bills that need to be paid, whether it's residential or commercial or even land. I mean, there's expenses that you need to do, and so let me give you a minute to kind of flow on that, and what your thoughts on government surplus properties and if they should be sold, and the effects on the American taxpayer.
Sure, Doug. In fact, we have had a couple of articles about this thing of governmental held properties, excess properties, and again, you hit it on the head. It could be residential, commercial, land, and all points in between. And there most certainly are carrying costs. And I have followed this for, 6-9 months. And basically what it is that the government, and we're saying the government, just the federal government, let's not forget there's probably state governments involved in a lot of this stuff, but federal governments, we're talking tens of thousands of pieces. It's not just one or two, it's tens to thousands of pieces, and they range again from residential and commercial and land, and the carrying costs, you hit it on the head. People say, well, the government owns it, they don't have to pay anything. Well, they have to, at minimum, maintain it.
Yeah.
And in a piece of real estate, it's either increasing in its quality or it's decreasing. There is no such thing as stability. And what do I mean by that? Is that whoever is running this piece of property, is going to have to, literally cut the grass, check the roofs, make sure the roofs don't leak, the windows don't leak, that it's secure, that people just can't come in and take it over and make it some free housing type of thing. Those are all costs. So not only is the government sitting on billions and billions and billions of dollars of real estate that's not making any money, it's also costing billions and billions of dollars every year just to simply maintain it. And this is something that, here the federal government is, I'll just call it the way it is, we're broke, and we need some money. Why not take something that, you're currently not using and sell it? get it back out into the marketplace, and get rid of those carrying costs. And again, the United States government, we're broke. 40 cents of every dollar we got to borrow from China, and let's get rid of them. So I hope that you have a very successful trip up into Washington to move this process on. There can't be too many, oxes that are going to be gored by getting rid of some of this stuff. It's just inertia that's in the process. And, in the department you've got to work with, they've got issues. And maybe you ought to throw one of those champagne glass parties. And I'm being facetious when I say that.
No.
I was facetious. But, I mean, this is an opportunity for your efforts to literally help reduce the governmental debt by getting the federal government to sell this stuff. It's urgent.
Well, it is urgent, and the effects of a property, let's go residential first. And when I talk about the 14,000 government surplus properties that President Obama brought on board when his State of the Union address in 2011, and then his follow-up address for the budget, stating that there's 14,000 properties, and if we could sell those, it would save billions of dollars for the American taxpayer. But let's go back, because there is correlation with residential. So if you have a property in your cul-de-sac, and in your cul-de-sac you've got 4 or 5 houses or whatever, and it's the turnaround, and one house is been foreclosed on, hasn't been sold, even if the lender is a great lender and really works hard and hires a good property manager, that property is not going to be maintained the same way as the ones next to it where there's people living. And so what happens, and you said it quite clearly, the grass gets higher, the pool gets green, all of a sudden there's a break in one of the windows. If you pass by at night, you can see some lights where the neighborhood kids have found a way in. It really goes down in value, but it hurts all the other properties. It devalues all the other properties. And until that property is sold, the other properties probably are not going to get sold. And so there's a need to sell that property. And now I'm going to move over to these 14,000 government surplus properties, which are warehouses, which are office buildings, which are tracts of lands, and one of my things just about every week I always talk about, this is in an article from last year. One property already drawing attention is the old post office annex in Washington, D.C. The facility loses $6 million a year, yet it hasn't been used in 10 years. And it's talking about Congressman Denham. Congressman Denham says Donald Trump and the Waldorf Astoria have expressed interest in buying the annex to use as a commercial venue that creates jobs and actually makes money for the taxpayers. And then further down it says the White House Office of Management and Budget, OMB, estimates that the savings from the selling of all these vacant buildings would be $15 billion within 3 years. And you talked about, you would think that this would be a win-win situation, and it would just slide through. The politicians would get it. They would they would take credit for it, which is cool as far as I'm concerned, as long as the taxpayer doesn't have to pay all of these holding costs, which is billions. So, how do we do this? And you're in the media, and you're in real estate. No one knows about this. Even if you're in a business, you don't know about the amazing cost of these properties on the American taxpayer. How do we get it out to them, Earl, to to force the elected officials to take this as a priority and say, no more Democrat, Republican, this is a win-win for everybody, go do it?
Well, let me just start at the win-win side. When you've got a decrepit property and you've got your carrying cost, you're absolutely correct on that. But if you can go along and sell the thing, let's just make it not a big post office. Let's just say it's a strip center.
Sure.
All right?
Yep.
And a 50,000 square foot strip center, and it's boarded up right now.
Yep.
Well, if you can get it sold and someone gets it going again, you're also talking about maybe 50 or 100 people now have jobs.
Yes.
It's a great way to develop a job base. So you eliminate the carrying cost. You get 50 or 100 people in this example that I use that are now working there that heretofore they didn't have a job, which is something our economy is desperately looking for.
New jobs.
I've got to take a slight issue with the count of... Here. Hang on.
Earl, I'm going to go for a quick break.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
Okay, you're on the air.
Yes, Doug, it's Earl Neiman.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I punched the wrong button on this side, and we were fairly disconnected.
I wondered
where we're at is discussing, what the economic benefits are. One of taking a 50,000 square foot strip center, and that's boarded up and not doing anything. You're going to get rid of the carrying cost, and you may get another 50 or 100 people that heretofore weren't working or had the availability of a job to get out there and get a job working in the various stores in a strip center. So it's tremendously win-win. But where we got cut off on my mistake here is that I have to take a slight disagreement on the count of 14,000.
Okay.
I have seen, because we go through the CBO's website probably 2 or 3 times a month, not on a regular basis, but I've seen the count from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. It's up over 29,000. Now, you're getting your stuff from the Office of Management and Budget, and they don't talk to one another.
No, they don't.
The CBO, it's 29,000. So it is a huge, huge market. And, what can be done, and I'll talk to you about this, that we can get some articles put together, and I'll run them on the Real Estate Daily News, because we've got a heavy readership, in real estate, although our main thrusts is the economy, finance, and taxation. That's where this issue most certainly fits in, and we can start blasting that stuff out and get more people. We've got 125,000 subscribers.
Well.
So we cover the state of Florida and in the Midwest, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, and Ohio. So we blanket those areas, and again, we've got a heavy readership for people that want to follow our main precepts, and again, that's the economy, finance, and taxations. And this issue, it's all of that, obviously, in addition to being just simply real estate.
All of the above.
So,
yep.
That's one thing that I would be glad to give you some help on.
Right.
And we can have a conversation as to the mechanics, later on today.
You talked about the property and used a strip center, but really we're talking about office buildings and warehouses, as far as what we're really concerned about. Courthouses. I was down in Miami last month because there was a congressional hearing. Congressman Denham and Congressman Micah from Florida, Congressman Denham from California, have said, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to go to these abandoned properties, and we're going to alert the press, and we're going to be asking government officials, why aren't you selling this property? You're not using this property. It's devaluing every day, but it's costing you a whole bunch of money. In this particular courthouse in downtown Miami, is costing the American taxpayer $1.2 million a year and hasn't been used 5 years. So all of a sudden, that's $6 million in money that you and I threw away as taxpayers. Never knew about it, but that's what you did. But let's just take that property and say, okay, what if we sold it? And I don't know what the number would be, but let's say it got $20 million and it became a retail center downtown because it's in great location, or it was a hotel, or whatever it happens to be. And let's say it's $20 million, and I don't know if that's, half of it or twice as much, but let's say $20 million. That's $20 million that's going into helping the deficit, but also $1.2 million that is not being spent every year by the American taxpayer for nothing. And if the new private sector person comes in, he's going to do exactly what you said. He's going to hire people for his new business. He is going to utilize goods and services and hire contractors and electricians and carpenters. And what people don't realize is for 5 years this property has not been used. So all of the neighboring properties, the drugstore, the restaurant, the dry cleaners, they've been really hit because usually an abandoned property gets the wrong kind of element in there, and so there's more crime, there's more vagrants. People don't want to go into that area that affects local areas. Now, when the new private sector person comes in and revitalizes the area, that's going to help all of those other businesses. And all of a sudden, he's paying taxes to that local municipality, which is just key because, as you know, the government doesn't pay taxes. And so for the city of Miami, it really hurts because that property is right downtown, great location. And for the last 5 years, not only has it been not getting any taxes to the municipalities, but however, it's really running down the area. So that
I think on that area, that's an excellent point. Is that when it is taken over by a private entity, they're going to start paying real estate taxes.
Yes.
That goes right into the community.
Yes.
I'm somewhat familiar with that courthouse situation in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
There's a publication called the Miami News that we follow, not the Miami Herald, the Miami News.
Right.
Excellent. It gets down and dirty, and so I'm familiar with that courthouse. But it's all of the obstructions. It would seem to me, Doug, is that what's got to be done is that let's use the number that I have, that it's 29,000
okay.
pieces, and someone's got to say who owns the title, what part of the federal government owns it. Then the Congress gets up there and orders these people, you're going to do something. Now, what are they going to do? I'm a firm believer on stuff that's been abandoned like that, but it may be in a choice location. Very tough to put on a price. And guess what? They ought to just put them out to auctions.
Well,
pure and simple.
It is
no reserve, an absolute auction. You're familiar with that process. An absolute auction, no reserves.
Earl, I'm going to have to go. Earl, I'm going to have to go to break. Do you mind holding on after the couple of minutes of ads? We'll continue this discussion because you're hitting a real bunch of good points that I want to do, but we need to hold on for a break. Can you do that?
Yeah, a couple minutes, I'll do that for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, and just hold on, and we'll have a quick break. All right, we are back. You're listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show, and we have Earl Niemoth on the line from Sarasota, and he is the editor and head of the Real Estate Daily News. Earl, you still with us?
Yes, I am, Doug.
Okay. We were talking about the fact that if private sector buys these properties, whether they be 14,000 or 29,000 per your records and investigation, and again, this has nothing to do with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. These aren't residential properties. These are what the government deems as surplus properties that they have gone out to the different agencies and say, hey, do you need a need for this? Do you want this? And all of a sudden they land in the government surplus property bin. And if these private sector people can buy them, they're going to revitalize the area. They're going to start paying taxes to municipalities. And when you first came on, you talked about the federal government. Well, there's nothing different except it's just a little bit smaller. The states have these surplus properties. These counties have surplus properties. These cities have surplus properties that it's just too easy to move them along each year. Yeah, we'll eventually have need for this. And meanwhile, these properties are abandoned and they're not being used. They're devaluing the area. They're devaluing the local businesses besides them and not doing anything. And that's why it's just a win-win to sell these properties. And you brought up about the auctions and absolute auctions. Why don't you make your point there?
Well, I think what it is that you get the agencies that have this surplus party, and let's just, again, focus in on the federal, because what you said on the state and local level is also valid. But the big ones are at the federal level.
Yep.
And the agencies, they own title in some form, all right? If you did a tract book search, you would find out that the courthouse in Miami is owned by whatever is owning that excess unused federal courthouse in Miami.
Right.
And it would seem to me is that you just simply get these controlling agencies, and you then get the Congress to say, you have exactly 6 months. Oh, we can't do that analysis. Oh, yes, you can, because I'm telling you, you're going to do it in 6 months, and we're going to get rid of these, and we're going to use the best thing. What's the value? You can't put listings and bring in a real estate broker. You may have it too high. You may have it too low. You get out there, and you have auctions.
How do you appraise a courthouse? That's pretty difficult.
Yeah, you can't. So I mean, you can't get a broker involved and say go sell it for $20 million and it's worth $200,000.
Right.
You can't do it. So that's where you just get the economy out there, and that's where you can't beat an auction with no reserve, on it, absolute, and get a fact sheet put together on it and get it out, to the world. It's not that difficult to do. What the congressmen have to do is that they have got to get a hold of these agencies and say, enough talk, we've been talking about it, our country is broke, we can't afford the carrying cost, we've got to get this thing sold, get private enterprise owning it so that we can hire more people and help our unemployment rate. So that's where your trip to Washington to talk to these people, I think, is so important. But they got to have a blowtorch put, underneath their posture to do something.
I'm not sure I'm that blowtorch, but I do plan to at least give them the experience that I've had in 20 years, 25 years of doing government auctions across the country. Auctions make such good sense for the government, and that's because it's transparent and that everybody can see it. Can you imagine, Earl, if you were in charge of that Miami courthouse, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you're a federal official, and it's your job to sell it, and you've got an investor from Germany asking about it, and they're ready to make an offer, and you've got a local businessman making an offer on it, and you've got somebody from California making an offer, and all of a sudden you got all of this interest. And however, one of them is, okay, we're going to need a due diligence period of 6 months. Or one of them says, listen, we can't put 5% down, we can only put 3% down. Or another one says, listen, the closing date can't be in 30 days, it needs to be 90 days. Or I can pay you more, Mr. Government Official Earl, but you need to give me financing. So all of these things are being shoved your way if you're the government official that's in charge of selling this Miami courthouse. And there's just no way that you can do it. And if you finally decide and you pick somebody, well, what are those other 5 people going to do? They're going to come back at you and say, hey, there was backdoor dealings, we would have paid more. And so an auction puts all the terms in the front, and it says what the deposit will be, what the closing period will be, if there's going to be financing or no financing, all of these things. So everybody plays on a complete level playing field. And now the only number that you need to put into that contract is who the next buyer is and how much they paid. And that is the transparency that's needed for government.
It's totally transparent. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows about that piece of property going into it. And if some guy whines, well, I need 6 months of due diligence, that's bogus, sir.
Yep.
That's been sitting down there for 5 years.
Yep.
And that's why we're going to bid. And, the auction is out there 45 days away. Drive by it, look at it, do your due diligence in that 45-day, and when we have the auction, we will close within 10 days.
Well, it's interesting because I just got something, Earl, this week. It's from Congressman John Mica, and again, he's from Florida. And the people who have really been moving this along and pushing everybody is the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, where Congressman Mica is the chairman. He has a subcommittee where Congressman Dennison is in charge of. But they are the two that are really, really pushing this and going to different places. After they went to Miami, they went to California. There was another courthouse there. They got PR there, and they got the media there, and I like their plan because it's not working the other way. So all of a sudden, if media people like you can find out about this and tell the rest of the world, then somebody's going to say, man, are you kidding me? I'm paying all those holding costs. I'm paying $1.2 million for this Miami courthouse to just sit there, and there's no plans on doing anything with it. That's the general public, getting their outrage and saying, man, what is happening up in Washington?
Well, that can certainly be done, and we can contribute that. We've got 125,000 readers. Like I said, split basically 60% in Florida and 40% up in the Midwest. We do cover 17 different countries that get the Real Estate Daily News on a daily basis. And again, that's the old name that I started with, and by the way, it's our 6th anniversary today.
Oh, really? Well, congratulations.
6 years. We've had over 1,400 issues that we have put together and sent out the door. So we've been doing it for 6 years. And like I say, we cover energy, finance, taxation, the environment, and energy. Why environment and energy? Well, I certainly like the energy subject, so I guess I'm the editor and I can pick them. But seriously, we've got 17 different countries that we get this out to. And occasionally we get an email back from one of our subscribers, and he's from England or Germany.
Yep.
Talking about this or that, and sometimes they want some more information. If we got it, we send it on to them. So we know we've got an active readership on its international, in scale. Not bad out of 125,000, as I say.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do, and we can publicize this whole process. And let me give some thought to it. Maybe we can get together in the next day or so and chat about, how the mechanics could be put together, and I'll be working on my side. So why don't we
Very
do
good.
that?
Tell us how people can reach you, Earl, because you've got a great website. How can people find out about your business and log in and get more information?
They can go to our website, and that's www.redn.biz, B-I-Z, redn.biz. That's a mirror image of the email that we send out 5 days a week. And if you want to get it on an email, there's a subscribe button. Just click it and let us have your first name and your zip code and your email address, and that's all that we require. But, you can get it 24/7, and go to www.redn.biz. You can go there right now, and you can see the issue that we sent out, that it's out there today, and you can sit down and read it. And we've got an archives on it. You can go back about 5 months and read up on the archives and see other pieces of news that we have. And the REDN is basically put together with a Florida section, a Midwest section, and then where this would fall in would be our section on the nation, and then we have an international. But it would be the nation. That's where this subject, it's a natural for it to go into play. It's an absolute natural.
Earl,
go to www.redn.biz.
Earl, thank you so much for calling in and taking the time to give your thoughts. Congratulations on your anniversary of your business. Doing a fine job in Sarasota, Florida, and look forward to working with you again. Thank you, Earl.
Very good. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go for a quick break. We'll be right back.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
Okay, we are back. You're listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I'm your host, Doug Dennison. We just had Errol Niemoth on. He is a editor, and again from Real Estate Daily News. Good guy, and had some great thoughts on trying to get out to the people that we are paying an ungodly amount of money on holding costs for these properties that the government has that are unused. They're abandoned properties, they're surplus properties, and we need to sell them. And I am obviously biased. I think it needs to be sold by auction. He talked about absolute auction. Absolute is the best way to go because that means it's going to be sold no matter what. And then when that happens, you get more players. You get more interest because they know there's no tomorrow. If there is a reserve, then you're not going to have everybody involved. And if it's an unstated reserve, no one knows if it's worth their time and effort to do all their homework to decide on what it is that they need to bid. So an absolute auction is the way to go. The government has had a lot of absolute auctions, not recently, but certainly in the Resolution Trust Corporation days, when Stanley Tate was in charge. Again, Stanley Tate from the North Miami area was in charge of the Resolution Trust Corporation, and he put into policy that there should be absolute auctions, and they went from the small properties to the bigger properties, and then the biggest properties because they saw that it really did work, and you had a lot more bidders there. I was trying to talk to Earl a little bit because I just got a new news release, and again, it's Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, Congressman John Mica, chairman. It came out on Wednesday, and it said the GSA reform bill on subcommittee schedule planned for Thursday. It says Washington, D.C., new legislation to reform the GSA, General Services Administration, to improve the efficiency of federal space, reduce the size of the government's footprint, eliminate GSA waste and abuse of taxpayer funds, and increase transparency and accountability at the agency will be considered for approval by a congressional panel tomorrow. The bill is called H.R. 6430, the Public Building Reform Act of 2012. It's legislation authored by Transportation Infrastructure Committee Chairman John Mica, who's from Florida, and Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management Subcommittee Chairman Jeff Denham. The bill was introduced in the House today on Thursday. And I did reach out Congressman Denham's office yesterday, and I said, how'd it go? And he said it went very well. And so that may be a way that this is starting to be pushed. I have talked to the GSA people, and I know they have their hands tied in many areas, and they need Congress to help them to determine, what they can sell, what they can't sell, and so, we all need to be on the same page. I think, from my understanding and talks to the GSA, they want to sell these properties. If they're not being used, then let's sell them. I'm not sure that they want to do auctions and what kind of auctions. I'm hoping that they're going to use the private sector. There's no need in adding more government agencies, more government staffing, more government bureaucracy. There is a need to reach out to the real estate business, the auction business, and to let them help the government sell these things, just like they did in the Resolution Trust Corporation days when they sold thousands and thousands of properties on behalf of the savings and loan debacle, where savings and loans went down, and they had all these properties and they were sold. Again, just to make clear, these properties are not these 14,000, or as Earl said, 29,000 government surplus properties. These are not houses. These are not condominiums. This is not Fannie Mae. This is not Freddie Mac. That is a whole other issue. But right now we're talking about these government surplus properties that are office buildings, courthouses, tracts of land, warehouses, and we just need to sell these properties, folks. And I'm hoping when I go up there in 2 weeks that I will get audiences and a good ear on how this can be pushed along. I know nothing about how to move Washington along, that's for sure. But I do know about real estate auctions, government real estate auctions. I've been doing it for 20, 25 years. I've got 80, 85 reference letters from government officials who, when I was an auction project manager, they wrote and said, hey, great job. Doug Dennison was the auction project manager, did a fine job. And so I've got a little bit of past that at least I can show them that this is from an experienced person, that this is not new stuff. This is just getting these properties and exposing them to the world, and then in a competitive fashion being able to get the highest and best price. We're going to use real estate brokers in a variety of ways. Number one, we're going to say, hey, real estate brokers, bring us the buyer. We will pay you a commission if they buy and close. So this is a win-win for real estate brokers. We're also going to need, for instance, even though I've got a Florida real estate license, I'm in St. Augustine, and that doesn't do me any good in Miami. So we're going to be hiring a firm, if we got that job in Miami, to say, okay, we need your help. We need you to help us put together a property information package about the area, about buildings and what they were sold for in the past. We're going to need help with previews so that you can be there when people come in and look at the property while they're determining if they want to bid and how much they want to bid. And so we're going to use real estate brokers on the front end, and hopefully they will also help us by bringing buyers. And you can only do that when you say, hey, we're going to share our pie of the commission if you bring us a buyer. And that's the way the real estate community works, and it's a good system. And also we're going to tell the real estate brokers, hey, you know what? You know this property better than anybody. You can bid. Find a group of people and make a partnership and bid on the property. So we're very excited to be working with brokers and have done. I have used them for the last 25 years. More than 5,000 brokers have helped us either by bringing buyers or helped us in the front end by helping to expose the property as being the local headquarter broker. Again, I want to thank Earl Nemeth for calling in from Real Estate Daily News. I want to talk about our sponsor. Rowell Auctions is a national real estate auction firm that started in 1936. They do online auctions, on-site auctions, and ballroom auctions. They have offices in Florida, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and have alliances with auctioneers and real estate brokers across the country. They do government auctions, bankruptcy auctions, and much more. They have a big auction schedule coming up, so check out their website at www.rowellauctions.com. That's www.rowellauctions.com, or you can call them at 800-323-8388. That's 800-323-8388. In the past couple of weeks, they have auctioned a couple of hundred properties, bank properties, absolute properties in the Carolinas and Georgia and Alabama and Florida, and they are interested in getting you as a potential bidder and a potential follower. Again, there are more auctions coming. I know there's going to be a big one in Valdosta coming up on the 25th. I think 83 different properties coming up. So you're going to want to know that. Rental properties, and they've got a great rental base there. Again, you want to go on the website, which is www.rowellauctions.com, or you can call them at 800-323-8888, and that's 800-323-8388. Want to go back to this new bill that has just been proposed. Congressman Dennison had put together a bill that passed in the House earlier this year. It's called H.R. 1734, and it got passed with good support from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. It moved over to the Senate, and it just sat there. And so I am not sure with this new bill if this is going to be part of a process where the Senate will get involved and want to help with this and just move these properties along. Just move these properties along. Sell these properties. You cannot let the American taxpayer continue to pay for these properties that are not being sold. You know, the post office annex in Washington, D.C. costs $6 million a year, and it hasn't been used in 10 years. That's $60 million that you and I, as a taxpayer, have paid for. We don't want to do it anymore. Okay, and to be honest, I know Congressman Denham and the GSA have worked on this. I think that, from my understanding, Donald Trump is going to be leasing that property and paying money to the federal government rather than us paying $6 million a year. I think that's a great step forward. I don't know what's happening in Miami. I think they actually put out a response saying, "Hey, give us your ideas." So that's a good thing. Hey, we all want to be in on this win-win situation, and it's very, very important. Listen, I appreciate everybody listening in, and we will be back next week. And again, have a wonderful weekend. Take care.